I'm Ryan Stevens.
Dr. Taylor Waters.
I'm Ben Oliver.
Welcome to the Supra Human Show, yeah?
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Supra Human Show. I'm your host, Ben Oliver, joined by Ryan Stevens and Dr. Taylor Waters. And today we are going to talk about gene... I don't know, I always play with the mic, isn't it?
It's better than playing with your knob on camera.
Yeah. So today we're going
It's not one or the other. It's not like you have to choose mic or not.
You can do nothing. So we want to talk about things, common diets, or say not that common diets, where it will be something like eating based on your genetics, eating based on your blood type. I think is another one, the blood type.
They're
diet.
like modern diet trends.
Yeah, like what were some of the other ones?
Body type.
Somatotype,
Gene testing, food intolerance testing.
Yeah, and so because with all of these things, the first thing I look at is the practicality of any of it. And so, for example, if I did gene testing and then it come back and said, you respond, like your genes will respond really well to a super high protein diet, very low carb, very low fat, I would go, okay, but I like bagels and cereal and nice foods, and I'm probably not going to do that. So I'm just going to move on with my life. It's like, right, so that information was useless. And that's what you typically find when people do any kind of like testing to map out their diet, is they're not going to follow it anyway. So like the practicality of it is like, well, it's you're procrastinating over trying to find reasons why you're not sticking to a plan. And it's like, oh, it's because of my genes, I don't tolerate carbs well. And it's like, well, you eat loaves of bread. You don't have two slices. It's like, no one tolerates loaves well. But it'll be findings of it. Oh, like, turns out I'm intolerant to bell peppers. It's like, what? That made you gain 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Like,
how
many bell peppers did you eat? Like, it will be like these little things that it's like, you think that's the reason why you haven't cracked this. It's the one food. It's like, oh, it's the cow's milk that I've been guzzling 3 gallons of a day.
It's like they say the results are in the work you're avoiding, and these tests like avoiding the real work. I mean, it's kind of like a distraction.
Yeah,
it's pure procrastination, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
well, look, like the body type one is purely subjective, isn't it? It's like you look this way, therefore you should respond like this. So to speak. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're muscular, so you should train.
That's really dated.
Yeah, it's like subjective, isn't it?
It was so you had a ectomorph, like skinny guy, mesomorph, naturally muscular, endomorph, naturally overweight.
But also, no one's outright one of those. No one's like an outright mesomorph. Like
no one falls into those categories.
No one's like an ectomorph. Then the next day they're like endomorph. It's a transition.
But also, like to say like you look like this diagram in this book, therefore your diet should be this. Doesn't take into any consideration of previous behaviors, current habits, current environment, current activity level, like all of these things has nothing to do with any of that.
Also, I could think someone's like fat, someone else could think they're skinny. You know what I mean? It's like purely subjective.
That is a theory. I think it's like from like the 1940s. I think it's a real dated where they brought out the sort of the 3 pigeonholes of physiques, and then the diet based off the physique that you have. And like, again, all diets, like if they're done and they tick the boxes, will have some form of success. So it's like, if you're an endomorph, again, I don't know what the somatotype diet is for an endomorph, but let's say, for example, it's a low...
A lot of food.
Chips and gravy.
They give a low... if you're an endomorph, you should have a low carb diet. Well, if you look like an endomorph, you're probably pretty heavy. If you do cut loads of carbohydrates and you are pretty heavy, you'll probably lose some weight, if not at all. So it's like, well, again, it makes some sort of sense, but it's not, you don't need to look at someone's body type, like pigeonhole them into one of these categories and then come up with a dietary approach based off that.
And if you're an endomorph and it's like, okay, you should be eating this, and you go, but my goal is to be a sumo wrestler. It's like, right, well, that goes out the window then, because it's all based on your goal. It's not based on what you look like
if anything,
right now.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. But I would say, like, with those like somatotypes, I've always looked at it as like, if you had to put someone in one of those, I would look more on their behavior and say, if they stopped training and paying attention to their diet, do they naturally lose weight? Do they naturally gain weight? Or do they stay pretty much where they are? And so I would say if you wanted to call yourself like one of them, I would say, well, if you stop training and don't track your food and follow a diet, do you typically gain weight quite quickly over time? Do you go back to kind of being skinny and you have to force feed yourself? Then that's like if you had to use them.
What's a natural baseline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you just did nothing and didn't change your behavior at all, where would you naturally fall? Would you gain weight? Would you lose? Yeah.
But that also has nothing to do with the program that I would put someone on.
No.
It's like, okay, you naturally gain weight if you don't stick to your plan. And like the principles don't change. And so like that kind of stuff, like it really annoys me. But then I think even with because the gene testing, it was I can't remember what gene it was, like, they discovered like there's an obesity gene, which means like you're more
predisposed.
You're more predisposed to becoming overweight. And then you can say, okay, you can then use that as your reason to never try, or just go, well, I guess I have to work a bit harder than most that don't have this gene then.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah.
The rules for you are the same as the rules for someone who doesn't have that gene.
Yeah.
But so it's like the rules are the same. So again, it might be a little bit more challenging for you, but there'll be loads of people who do have that gene who are.
So there's a really good like I love it's not even food related, but it was one of Alex's Hormozy seminars, and he said a woman put her hand up and said like, oh, here's all the reasons why this model won't work for me. Like I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm too busy to do this. And he goes, okay. He's like, you'll never be successful. And then she goes, well, no, I could. Like, I could do those things. Like, I would just do it this way. And he's like, no. Like, and she's like, yeah, well, I could do that. It's like, right. So you could do it. Yeah. So what the fuck are you on about?
Yeah.
And so it's like people will look at it and be like, well, I can't lose weight because I've got this gene. It's like, cool, you're going to be fat forever. Are you happy now?
Yeah.
Are you happy to just not try? Like, and they'll go, well, no, I can. I've just got to work harder. Right.
There we go.
Yeah.
But also, have you progressed? Have you ever lost weight? Have you ever gone down on a scale?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that shows you can do it. So now you've shown that you can do it. Let's just diffuse that myth, and then we can move forward.
It's like in that situation, it's like, so what? You've got this gene, you've got underactive thyroid or whatever. It's like, now what decision you're going to make? Use it as a reason not to do anything at all, or like you said, work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
You know? So
be a bit more.
It's like life's not fair. So what? You can be fair to yourself.
It's looking for that permission to not do anything.
Yeah.
And say, well, I can't, because it's victim mentality.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And this, by no means am I saying that these things don't exist and aren't real, because they are. Like, people have underactive thyroids. They have to eat less food and do more than, say, someone like Ryan that loses weight very easily. And you can go, it's not fair. And I can go, you're right, it's not. And
yeah,
like,
what are you going to do about it?
Do you want to just sit there or accept it? It's like, here's what you've got. Like, you could say it's not fair. Some people are rich and some people aren't. It's not.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Like, are you going to work harder? Like, you know, there's again, like, though, looking at those things, it, practically speaking, doesn't change anything.
No. Again, the rules are the same rules.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you have to be a bit more diligent, but again, it's like, what makes fat loss more challenging? Your genetics or the environment you live in? Well, if you live in a real poor environment, it makes it really challenging, where you've got your friends who are always trying to get you to eat and drink, and then your family, then you can't cook, and then there's the food places around you are all very high in calories, and there's no good foods available. It's like that will make it much more challenging than this one gene that you have, which might make you a bit more predisposed.
But
so it's like,
and also, I love the fact that it's like, before, if you never knew, what would you do? Like, if you never knew, like, that you had this gene, it wouldn't even be a hurdle, an obstacle. You would just crack on. Like, the amount of times that people, you know, like runners, where they have like a broken shin, and they'll just keep running, oh, my shin's hurt, and they keep running. And then they have an x-ray, and it's like, you got a broken leg. And then suddenly they're like, oh, it really hurt. And it's like, well, you fucking ran a marathon last week. But it's like, you'll mentally psych yourself out and use it.
I find that with food intolerance, you know, it comes up like, oh, you get like, you're allergic or whatever, you've got an intolerance to certain food. When they eat that food, then they've already put in their mind that they've got an intolerance to it. So they may be like, oh, they'll eat like bread, they'll get bloated. It's like, yeah, because you've been told that on a piece of paper. So it's like planted in your head.
And then it's like, you could argue, now when you eat that food, you're putting yourself in a stressful environment. And obviously, if you're in like fight or flight when you eat, food just sits there because you're not relaxed. And so it's got nothing to do with the food, but now you're anxious when you eat, and it's causing these things. And so it's like that's why I just think all of that shit is just. I don't want to say it's like it's nonsense, but it doesn't help people the way that they think it helps people.
No, especially the intolerance test. Like we often say, like you collect good data and you make informed decisions based off the data that you have. But the intolerance tests are really inaccurate, really unreliable. Like they do it's like a immunoglobulin antibody response to certain foods. But you'll get a response to all foods. It's just it's a normal physiological response, and it's like, you know, sometimes it can be used because like the same test can be used for intolerances and tolerances. It's like it's just sort of it's not a reliable test that they have. So they give you this unreliable test to use. And then you make a really big decision about what foods you are cutting in and out of your life based on this. So you're making big decisions off shit data. And it's like whether you're in business, whether you're in fitness, whether you're in law, that's a really bad way to go about making decisions.
You like those tests, they just show you like what foods you've been exposed to, not necessarily the got intolerance to them. So then you get like a laundry list of like foods that you could be like intolerance to, and then you're looking like, bloody hell, what? I've literally had a client say to me, well, what can I eat? You know what I mean? Because like it just increases like food anxiety then, you know?
I saw it was in like the World Allergy Organization Journal or something like that, and they literally were like, these tests are unreliable and not a effective way to make these decisions. And then people are like, oh yeah, I can't have like one of my clients was like, I can't have dairy. I was like, you have 2 scoops of whey protein every day and have done for like 6 months. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, fair enough. So it's like go off symptoms. Like when you go to normally the influencers on Instagram will speak about the intolerance tests. The dietitians don't often speak about the intolerance test. They'll do like a food log and a symptom log, and they'll just they'll cross-reference between the two over several months. They'll pull foods, they'll put foods back in. So if those intolerance tests were so useful, why the hell aren't they using them?
Because also, though, like the actual food elimination diet and reintroduction is quite a long process. So if you could just do it from like a intolerance test, like the dietitians would be doing that. Instead, you've got some influencer on Instagram doing the test, and the dietitians doing like a 6-week.
He's doing a different type of test as well.
I think there's still value with like a low FODMAP diet for certain clients and things where like, but again, like you said, you're going off symptoms and they're giving you feedback. But then the other thing I would say is you have people that they'll say like, oh, I don't eat any processed foods, again, whatever the fuck that means. And I don't do this. I make sure I eat this. They're the same clients that when the weekend comes around, they'll have 6 beers and a large pizza. And then you say, but if you averaged out the amount of yeast, barley, gluten, dairy that you had in that one night on Saturday, you're having more that one night than if you had a slice of pizza every day and a beer every night. And so and then even if you look at from a digestion standpoint, if I'm like, I could say I don't tolerate cow's milk very well because I don't drink it often. Like, so if I go slam a milkshake, probably going to shit my pants in the hour, probably 20 minutes. However,
so just a bit faster than normal.
Yeah. So it goes from 2 hours to 1 hour. But then if I said, well, I want to be able to drink cow's milk, then I would just start having it a little bit every day and start exposing myself to it frequently. And then you build up a tolerance, just like anything. Like like that's literally how like vaccines work. It's like you get a
minuscule doses,
exposure of the thing, you create the antibodies for it, and then you're good. And so like these people that you can make yourself intolerant to everything if you eat a really restrictive, quote unquote, healthy diet. Then the moment you have things like bread and cheese and pizza and beer, you're like, oh, I feel terrible. It's like, yeah, because you never have it. There's nothing wrong with that. But like the more restrictive you are day to day, the more intolerant you're going to be of everything else.
I think it was when I had my first kid, Ruben, we give him eggs or something, and he come up in a rash, and the doctor say, keep giving him that.
Yeah.
I mean, so because like you build, now he eats eggs all the time.
Just
no
give him a
problem at all.
small amount of
Yeah,
eggs.
small
Like,
amount,
don't give him 6 eggs,
Yeah.
but you know,
I give him 10. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we were just chatting about my running this morning. It's like I would say I'm rather intolerant to running because when I run, I get injured quite easy.
Yep.
So what have I done? I've started off at very small doses of running, and over time I will titrate the dose up to make sure that I become more tolerant to running. And then it's the same as anything.
It's like you present a smaller stress that you can handle, you adapt to it, now you increase the stressor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know anyone, but like I don't have any clients or know anyone personally that's done one of those tests, followed the plan that was given by one of these tests, and drastically changed their life. And even if it did help a little bit, they didn't stick to it.
Zero.
They maybe did it for 2
0%.
weeks and they would go, oh, like, yeah, I'm feeling less bloated. And then 2 weeks later, they're back eating how they were eating.
100% of them got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the clients have mentioned that to me, they've just come up, I feel overwhelmed.
And think, we can do a quick study here. How many people in your life do you reckon you've spoken to about their diet? I know.
Yeah.
3,000? And then, so that's 9,000 people and not one. I can't recall one person who's gone, yeah, I did that food intolerance test. Now I'm shredded and I feel great.
Yeah.
And I'm performing phenomenally. And I've been sticking to it for like, it just never happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like we said at the start, it's the ultimate form of procrastination you can do.
The number one thing that you can do to help your digestion is eat less and lose weight. Like
Put less digestive stress on.
Any time I'm dieting, digestion's great.
Yeah.
Because there's less volume, there's less food, you got less time digesting. Like because I don't like the word reset because there's no reset button, but it's like a good clear out. Like you're just emptying the tank a little bit. Yeah. If you're in a muscle gaining phase, it gets to a point that like it doesn't matter how clean or tolerant or whatever the food you're eating, a lot is a lot.
Yeah.
And you're gonna feel your stomach is full, your small intestine is full, you're bloated because there's a shitload of food going in, and in 2 hours time you got to eat again. Yeah. And it's uncomfortable, and that's why most people don't have crazy successful muscle gaining phases because they just can't hack it. Like it's not a comfortable feeling. No. I would rather be hungry than just that constant feeling of just, I don't know if I'm going to burp or shit like at any point. And it's like, and I've got to eat another chicken and rice meal in an hour. Like it's horrible. But it doesn't matter what the foods are. You know, you do a food intolerance test and be like, oh, like you're really intolerant to chicken and rice. It's like what the two most hypoallergenic foods on the planet. Like, well, you're fucked then.
Yeah. Like, maybe it's got to be every meal, 8 meals a day for the last year.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do we know about, change in body comp? Well, energy balance is important. Macronutrient profile is important. The personalization of the approach that you take is important, and consistency is important. Where in your food intolerance testing, your gene testing, your somatotypes, where in those things do these things get mentioned? They don't. It's like it's like the things that we really do know, there's loads of evidence that works. We've seen it with thousands of people throughout our lives. The evidence in the research shows it. And then in these random food intolerance tests and stuff, it's just, again, it goes back just cutting out random stuff based on this blood test that you've had.
I don't think I've had, I would say it's 99% of the time, the clients that will ask me about gene testing, blood type diet, food intolerance testing, a certain training program, a certain supplement, are not following their plan. Yeah. They're not going to the gym consistently. They haven't tracked their food or whatever their plan is. Like some guys don't track, but they're not following the plan that was given to them. Mm-hmm. And every single week there's frustration that they're not getting results. Then they're looking into this other thing and asking, they'll go, thoughts on this? And I go, my thoughts are, you should fucking just do something
to your plan
consistently for a week. Because even if I go, yeah, try it, you're only going to try it for a day because the evidence shows you can't stick to anything. Mm-hmm. And so you're gonna jump around. Like I remember there was a client, that I work with, it's probably like 2 years ago now. And he had like initially crazy results, dropped like 20 pounds in like 8 weeks, just like getting leaner. Suddenly just went backwards, just fell off track, started drinking beer and just eating whatever. And then every week I'd be like, cool, like here are the things we need to do to get back on plan. I want to see you, like, tell me when you're going to prep your meals, you know, tell me what your food is going to be this week. We can opt for these foods. I know you're traveling, like through the kitchen sink at him in terms of tactics. And then get nothing back. And then it would be a link to some bands, and it'd be like, oh, I think I'm going to do band training. I think that's superior to lifting weights. And I'm like, did you listen to anything that I just said? And then I would say like, well, bands are inferior to weights. They can be sometimes a decent addition if you're traveling, but show me any decent bodybuilder that uses bands solely for their training. A fat zero. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, right, okay, well, I'm going to try it anyway. And I'm like, cool. 2 days later, hey, can you change my program back to weights? And I'm like, right. And I'm like, how's your diet been? Oh yeah, no, I haven't tracked anything this week. And we did this dance for like 6 months. And by the end of it, I was like, I'm not going to say his name, but I was just like, dude, I was like, you haven't done shit. I was like, you haven't done anything. And I said, you haven't made any progress in 6 months. You've wasted my time. You've wasted your time. Like, what's the problem? Like, what? Like, why are you struggling so much with this? And then again, 2 days later, oh, I found this new. I think I'm going to try the carnivore diet. I'm just like, just shove the steak up your ass at this point, bro. Like, it's just, I'm done with it. Yeah. Like, and it sucks because like it really frustrates you as a coach when all I wanted was for him to get back on track and continue to get the results that I know he's capable of. And I said, look, you've done it. Like you can literally look back and just copy what you did, and it will work.
He's got evidence of what works. You literally got it himself.
You've got this is what you did for your weights. Like, this is what you did for your diet, and this is the results that you know that you can get. Yet you're looking for something else. Why? Like, and it like that mentality will ruin your progress.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, and I did it myself when I was at uni. It's like I was searching for the perfect training program. Like, is it 8 reps? Is it 12 reps? Is it 3 sets? Is it 5 sets? Is it high volume, low volume? Is it high protein, low carb? And I fucked around for years. The only thing that got me by was I trained really hard, regardless of what program I was doing.
Yeah.
And so it's like I still got some results, but I would have got way better results if I just did what I did now for like those 5 years. But I was all over the shop. The only thing I had going for me is that I did everything full tilt and just like trained my bollocks off regardless of what program it was.
Yeah.
But most people aren't even doing that.
No.
And so it's like, well, you're just not going to get anything at this point.
Yeah. It's like doing stuff intentional, like regardless of the program you do, like being consistent with it and doing it intentionally.
Yeah. And this goes back to like our underlying kind of like coaching philosophy. Like, so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I was thinking of doing a gene test or a food intolerance test, then I would say, what problem are you trying to solve? Is it that you are experiencing digestive issues and you've tried a few different things and you're looking for more answers? Okay. Is the problem you're overweight and you're not losing weight and you're struggling to stick to your plan? Food intolerance test probably isn't going to solve that. Like you're just, again, procrastinating, trying to think you're solving another problem when the underlying issue is, why can't you stick to a plan? Not even the plan you have, a plan in general. And if you solve that, you don't need the test. Like but they're the conversations that people don't want to have. And it's like, why are you procrastinating? Like, why don't you want to do it? It's got nothing to do with the bread that you're eating or like any intolerance that you have. But like, I think that word procrastination is the main one.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. Because again, it's the people that aren't getting results are looking for this. Because the guys that are losing weight every week, if I said, oh, hey, you should do a food intolerance test, they go, why? Like, I've lost 3 pounds this week and I'm eating ice cream. I feel great. Like, no. Like, oh, you should try this new program. No, I really enjoy the one that I'm doing now because I'm getting results. It's like and it's because they're actually doing it.
But that's how those companies get popular or make money, is because they know there's so many people out there who are struggling to find success in this area. So they just take advantage of it and be like, there's so many vulnerable people out there. Let's just sling out another thing to take their attention and take their money.
Like, you know, the what was it, the device, like the Noom, is it Noom that like tells you if you're burning glucose or
Tells
fat.
you if you're a pussy or not.
Yeah. Put it in your mouth and it tells you if you're a fucking pussy.
It's got 100% success rate.
As soon as you click order, then it's just confirmation that you're an absolute pussoir.
Imagine that. The confirmation email comes through.
Yeah.
Congratulations, your order will be delivered on Wednesday. You are a pussy. You are a pussoir.
But so when I did my masters, there was a guy on my course, and he worked for them, and I because we were the only two guys that were doing it part time. He showed up less than me, and so I'd see him maybe every 4 months. I'm like, oh, how's life? And he's like, oh yeah, I just got a new job. And I was like, doing what? He's like, Noom. He's like, oh, I basically like go around and promote Noom. And I was like, you know, it's bullshit, right? And he goes, oh, absolutely. Yeah. He goes, it's complete bollocks. He goes, but I need a job. and so I was like, and he was sound, but he's like, yeah, because it doesn't tell you. It's like, okay, you're burning glucose, so what? Yeah. You're burning fat, so what? Like, you're burning whatever you just fucking ate.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like we've got RER models for decades of like high intensity glucose, low intensity fat. Like we know that. Yeah. If you eat a fat diet, you'll burn more fat. If you eat loads of carbs, you'll burn carbs.
Yeah.
But it was just funny that it's like he's the one going around selling these things, and he's like, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's complete bullshit. And then it makes you wonder how many other people are doing this shit that know that it's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
But
it's like you still have to do the work, don't you? Okay, you're burning more carbohydrates. So what?
Yeah.
You still have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, and like these little things, they almost make you feel good short term. And it's like when that feeling goes, like, right, I'm going to try and find the next thing that's going to make me. It's almost like, you know, like when people read self-help books and then do nothing about it. It's like they get that instant high. Oh, but it's like nothing changes unless you take action.
Yeah.
It's like
actually done.
I'm burning fat. Okay, so what? You still have to do something.
Yeah.
You know,
mate. The other day I saw a heroin addict who was absolutely shredded. I don't know.
Is that the new SAP?
Yeah, I don't know where he got his intolerance tests from, or his fucking somatotype diet.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he did, but yeah. Where'd he find them? Behind a bin. No, they were in the bin. That's where they were.
That's what
where they should be.
All the holes in his arm. It's like, oh, I did my allergy testing.
Yeah.
And I used the same needle for all of them.
That's an abscess from my Noom.
What's that pus coming from your arm? Oh, it's just my allergen testing. It's the bell peppers that I had this morning. I'm intolerant.
Yeah. I did it behind a trash can.
But yeah. So anyway, all of these things, again, not to say they're completely useless and never have their place, but the reason why we don't have any of our clients do these things is because we know ultimately they don't factor into us when it comes to building a plan. Now, one test that I would think would be reasonable to do is
STI test.
The what?
The STI test.
Everyone should do that, especially if they've been around Taylor. But I would do a personality test. Like if I looked at personality traits of a person, that's going to help me more. And not even then, that's not that valuable. But I would much rather see a personality test than a genetic test. Because then I could see like, oh, like they are, again, I don't like the types, but people will do them like, oh, they're a type A personality. They like to be so then if they say I'm type A, then I go, well, one of the things we're going to have to fix then is your all or nothing mentality. But that's really useful for me because I can go, I'm going to give you a plan and I want you to be flexible with it. I want you to practice not being perfect with it. And then we can break that mentality. That's going to be way more beneficial than like, oh, let's show me your genes. Because I'm going to look at them and be like, I don't know what this means. Like, you're going to respond to protein the same way as everyone else.
Yeah.
That's a crucial one, that is, because when clients say to me, oh, they got that they're either all or nothing, it's like in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so when something doesn't go exactly as planned, I'm looking to see how they respond to it.
Yeah.
You know, when something doesn't go as planned, do they shit the bed and go off the deep
Yeah,
end?
yeah.
Like, how do they respond to it? And then obviously that's something for you to work on, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Because at the end of the day, you're working with a person. You're not working with a strand of DNA.
Yeah.
And like, so regardless of what those tests say, you're dealing with someone's previous experiences, their current mindset, their current environment, their current goals, like how they feel on any given day. Like all of these things play so much bigger role in, oh, this one gene that you've got says you gain fat quite easy. Like,
well, look, it's when it comes it comes down to all these things. They're always physiological that they're trying to solve, when this game is actually way more psychological and behavioral than it is physiological. It's just we can see the physiological stuff occurring. The outcome is physiological, but in order to solve that, it's more to do with the psychological stuff and the behavioral stuff. But it's like that stuff doesn't look snazzy on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's like, behavior change is not a big seller.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to package that up in a sort of in a machine and flog it is not the easiest thing. So they always go down these physiological routes, but it's like, no, the outcome is the physiological problem, but in order to change that outcome, it's the psychological and the behavioral stuff we need to correct.
I used to just before we end, I used to laugh at this guy. This is a English hypnotist called Paul McKenna, and he had his heyday probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it.
And one of his books was that he's like, I can make you thin, and he's like, I can hypnotize you and make you thin. And I was like, what a load of fucking bots. Because again, I'm science head. Like, it's like calorie deficit, blah, blah. But now I think it's great because all he did was he basically, like, the way he worded it is like hypnotic language and stuff. But the outcome was people ate slower. They thought about the food they were eating and that it's filling them up and nourishing them and like they're feeling full. He made them always leave something on their plate. And so it's like you serve your portion, and he's like, I always want you to leave something on your plate. And then there'll be like some hypnotic stuff around it. It's like, so you're creating a calorie deficit. But all of these habits that people have, it's like it all ultimately ends up in them eating less.
Yeah.
But like the way that he did it, I was like, it's all psychological. Like not once did he say calories, protein, like any like energy balance,
Fiber.
Fiber, like nothing. It was literally all about the mindset of just like do these things, say these things to yourself, and the outcome is eating less. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like again, way more valuable.
Get him on board.
Yeah.
Get Paul on board.
Paul, I'm not sure what you're doing these days.
Good job.
Right. He's probably got a new book now. I can make you trans. Just
you haven't got the job anymore.
Although there is a big physiological component to that.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, thank you as always for tuning in, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Go get your genes tested. Go get that bit of paper. Just throw it in the trash, and just give Taylor the money instead.
Yeah,
and,
yes, please.
He'll give you the results. Awesome, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
If you love this show, please like, share, and leave us a 5-star review so that we can help more people. I'm John Madsen, Superhuman CEO, reminding you to always go get what's yours.